Hello, welcome to Finding Strength Podcast. Good to see you again. Good to be seen again. We have our really, really super good, amazing friends, Crafts, here to talk about, well, shit. Life, man. Life is wild. Life is, talk about, curveballs, right? So, Jeremy and Chris, did you guys just introduce yourselves to the world? In case you guys didn't know, Jeremy's been on the podcast before. Yep. Check it out. Episode 41.
I think that's what you said, yeah.
You guys can go check that one out, the OG. But now we're updating. So?
Yeah, Jeremy Kraft, fire chief for Lehi. Married to this cute girl. We have 5 kids and 8 grandkids.
You guys are the best grandparents. No, she doesn't. She's like buff grandma.
Grandma.
Yeah.
Just living our best life.
Trying.
Yeah, we're trying. So, that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And do you still the gym? You don't own it anymore.
Yeah, we sold our gym in Lehi, and I'm still coaching for them. So it's been good. That's where I get a lot of joy, is just watching all my athletes just crush life and achieve their goals. So I'm still in it, but not on the business side of things. So that's good.
That's so
and
nice.
It's a CrossFit gym. So it's like legit. It's like hardcore working out. Kicks your ass every time.
We're definitely getting strong every day.
That's great. I love it. Yeah. That's wonderful. Well, we wanted to have you guys on for a bunch of different reasons. My main reason for having you guys on is because I just think as a couple, you guys really kind of emulate awesomeness,
Thank you.
Resilience.
That's so nice.
Success.
Yeah.
And I think that you just carry a lot of wisdom. I mean, Jeremy, you and I have been friends for a while now. We've had really deep conversations, and I've learned a lot from you. And I've worked with Lehi Fire for many years. When we're repping the hat today, if you can't see it, I've got my Lehi Fire hat on. Because really, when it comes down to it, like very early in my career, I started to come up with some ideas. And, you know, as people know, I'm a semi-ambitious human being. And you heard about me, I don't know, it was through the podcast or something. We kind of met up, and I started to do some training at Lehi Fire, which was super awesome. And I was able to kind of develop some stuff and really come in and bolster up the peer support program. And that's what that last podcast is about some of our early kind of goals towards bolstering the first responder support system within your department, which seems like it's been relatively successful. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We've made some big strides with the mental health in the department. Still some barriers to overcome, but I mean, fire service in general, we've made a lot of strides, right? Definitely a different culture now than when I was a young firefighter, where it was no emotions, be big, be tough, be strong. You know, we talked a lot about that in the previous episode, but lots of kitchen table talk now, which is indicative to me of a culture change, a culture shift, where you can talk about feelings. Surprise, firefighters have feelings too, right? We've made a lot of strides. I think we got a long ways to go. There's still some cultural barriers there, if you will, in the fire service, but we're getting there.
What's the biggest change that you feel like you have seen?
The fact that people just actually talk about that a call made them feel bad.
Really? They do? That's awesome.
Statement alone is I mean, because when I was young, that just didn't happen.
No, that didn't I still feel like that still is a thing.
It
so
still
the
is
fact
a
that
thing
your
with some.
department does that is awesome.
It's still a thing, but you know, we've had some incidents recently where I've reached out to Matt, and it's just like, hey, you know, I got a firefighter and they're telling me that this call is hurting them. And that alone is amazing. We don't have to go seek them out and go, hey, this call sucked. Are you sure you're okay? They're saying to us now, hey, that call sucked and I don't feel okay.
So it's like they're advocating for themselves now. That's awesome.
Not all of them.
Not all of them, yeah. But creating a culture of you can advocate for yourself.
That's cool. Kind of the direction that it seems the first responder community kind of needs to head. We're headed in that direction towards being more open about what we need, rather than pretending like we don't need anything. And really what those conversations are about is I'm having a hard time. Hey, but I need a listening ear, or I might need a little more support, rather than ignoring those needs and shoving them down so that we're just kind of like pretending that we're okay all the time.
Yeah.
And then we kind of shove it down with whatever numbing mechanism has become our favorite that we get to do when we get home. Or we just friggin' pick up more shifts and work 80, 90 hours a week, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like one of the two.
Yeah.
The thing that's cool is a few years ago, I came to Jeremy because we, over at Deer Hollow, we partnered with an organization called First Watch, and then we became like sister organizations. And I came to Jeremy and I was like, hey man, here's this really cool program that we got going on. It's called First Watch. It's similar to what I was doing before, but we kind of like, we're almost like testing the waters when I was working with Lehi Fire and what First Watch should look like. And I took a bunch of notes and we came up with a bunch of really cool concepts, and we were able to take this little package thing that was kind of developed through Lehi Fire as well as in other departments and kind of create this really big, very awesome, super cool thing called First Watch that now helps dozens of departments all over the nation get the support that they need and create that culture that you were able to create at Lehi. And you guys are one of the first people to jump on board with First Watch. So I would have been remiss had that not been mentioned, because I just think that, I'm pretty proud that that's what we're doing.
Yeah, it's a good program.
Well, and people are going to see the title of this episode, and a lot of the first responders are going to go, oh, click. And so I want to make sure that at the beginning of the episode, they get what they came for.
Yeah,
You get to hear some stuff. Yeah.
I think it's worth mentioning. I was actually probably more resistant than some of my department members about First Watch because it's online.
Right.
And I'm kind of an old school guy. I like to have conversation.
In
But I
person,
actually think that's one of its biggest benefits
sure.
is how easy it is, where you can do it from your living room or, wherever you're comfortable. It doesn't, you don't have to go to an office or, to have a conversation. So just a little plug on the online part.
Yeah.
I'm getting used to it. I'm getting better.
Yeah.
It's kind of different, huh?
It is different
For me, but I like this, right?
Yeah.
But our younger people, they like that video and like that camera in
It's
my
a little
face right
bit of
now
a
is
barrier.
a little daunting for me.
Yeah.
Go over there.
It's right there. I can see it, right? But
Yeah.
and Kristen's trying not to look at it too. That's who we are.
Just break the fourth wall. Just get it out of the way early.
We're in-person people. That's
Yeah.
I like
You guys are.
I
Yeah.
like to think I'm good at relationships, and that's where they're really formed.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, I think the thing that always I felt with you, man, is I always felt you were really authentic and genuine. And then I met Kristen, and I was like, oh my gosh, they like freaking compound vulnerability and
together,
like bolster each other through vulnerability. Well, and I think what was cool too about having the First Watch thing is the timing couldn't have been better, because First Watch kind of came online, and then, I mean, no pun intended, shit went down in Lehi Fire for you personally, for you both personally, as well as there's that big crash, right, that happened. And that whole thing, and First Watch is able to come in and provide support. Anyway, so having the culture change within the department has been huge.
Yeah.
I've seen it personally because I work with a lot of these guys, and I know them; they're my friends.
Well, remind me. It like family can use it too, right? It's like for the wives as well.
Yes.
And kids, or mainly wives.
Ish. Mainly wives when it's
Which I think is a huge deal, right? Because like
when it's fire department related, there's a little bit of trickiness there. We're still trying to work through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's designed to be dependents 12 and over.
Okay.
But oftentimes we end up referring them out and using insurance and stuff like that. But anyways.
But have you seen a difference in Jeremy with like everything that he's from when he's like started to like doing this mental health thing now in the department? Have you seen a change in him?
In a comparison from when we first started dating, he's different. He's different. Yeah. He's way more vulnerable, way more expressive with his emotion, wants to talk through stuff. And when I think back on like early on in our relationship and our marriage, I think he was still stuffing a lot of things down and not talking them out. So but it's been good. I've been watching Matt and Jeremy kind of progress through the program and get it all built up. And he always speaks so highly of you.
But I mean, it's interesting in that you've seen a change in me, but I think it's because it's a safe space to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, as you were talking a minute ago, like I was trying to think to myself, what broke some of those barriers down? Well, I think me being vulnerable in front of my people, but it all started at home. for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I couldn't have been vulnerable with her, I would have never brought that to work, right? It's one of those, I don't know, just how it works, I guess.
That makes a lot of sense.
Well, because creating safety, right, is like part of being vulnerable. You want to feel safe. And so at home with the person that you love, you start creating this safety to have these vulnerable, really hard talks. Like as a couple, we have really hard talks and they're not fun. And sometimes we have to tell things to each other that are not easy. And so I think creating that safety piece and then being able to get vulnerable, did you feel like when you went back to the department, you kind of were able to create more of a safety feeling for everyone and then get...
I just think showing emotion myself.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it all started really when I became the chief, and I would go out on hard incidents and watch my guys and gals struggle.
Yeah.
And I think, and please chime in, but at first I was the rock. I was solid for them, but then I would go home and I would talk to her and tears would flow out of my eyes, and it was safe. And she never judged me for that. And then it came, you mentioned the crash. I think that might have been one of the first big vulnerable times for me. And I cried with my people, right? I mean, they were hurting, and I'll never forget when I arrived on there, just seeing them, like the tears just started, and I wasn't embarrassed. And 20 years ago, I would have found a place to hide, dry them up, find some courage, move forward. But I say find courage, but not really. Right?
Would it be okay to give a little bit of details on that incident, or is it under investigation so we kind of can't?
Yeah, we got to be a little bit.
That's
careful.
fine.
We were involved
That's why
in a
I asked.
fatal accident.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what I can say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That was tough for everyone.
And it seemed like it wasn't just like a one-off thing. It was like so many members of the department were involved that it affected everybody. Kind of trickled out into the whole department.
Yeah.
And the timing of it was also very, I don't know, coincidental, I guess is the right word. I don't know. Well, because, right, I mean, that happened, and then you lost Jordan, like really close to each other.
That happened in October, and then in April, we lost our son to suicide.
Yeah.
And that's emotional, right?
Yeah.
And man, the department really wrapped their arms around us on that one, didn't they?
For real. They were at our house every single day. I mean, the support and love that came down from them was incredible.
So 2 days after, there was a huge snowstorm that hit. I'm kind of an early riser, but I had slept in till 6 a.m. That's sleeping in for me.
I was like, wait, what? That's sleeping in?
But actually, I woke up to, hey, there's a whole bunch of fire people outside shoveling your sidewalk.
Oh.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that they did for us. And you can't help but be vulnerable around them then, right? And,
for sure.
And here's an interesting take for me. And she caught on to me, but I started finding excuses to go to the station. Like he passed on a Sunday, or he committed suicide on a Sunday, and his funeral was Saturday. And in the middle there, I started finding little excuses to go to the fire station. And it just felt normal to me. She called me out on it. But it was that escape from the emotion, if you will. But I felt safe enough to go there and be emotional. That makes sense.
Yeah.
In like a familiar, controlled way. And I think that's like when it comes to coping and dealing with the overwhelm that comes from life's myriad traumatic incidents, right? I mean, this is part of life, is you're going to have insanely unexpected, overwhelming events happen. And they're going to happen at the exact moment that you least expect them to happen. And you have to figure out how to respond. And part of that response is coping, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of lean towards the familiar, but we have to also embrace the unfamiliar and do this kind of dance back and forth between the two and understand what coping and dealing with those events, the aftermath of those events, and the emotions that result from those events. It requires us to really be a little bit more deliberate and tactical in our interventions that we use to deal with the tragedy, to deal with the loss, to deal with the overwhelm, to deal with the feelings, right? And so as a strategy, a deliberate strategy, using what works and what's familiar and what's worked in the past for us is paramount. And it seems like oftentimes people, they experience some sort of wild traumatic event that they weren't expecting, and they're like, what do I do? What am I supposed to do? And the first question should be to oneself, well, what have I done in the past that works? Let's start there. Because really, in the moment of trauma, the very first emotion that anyone feels every single time is always the same: confusion. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's a key point. And not a lot of people talk about this confusion feeling and how important it is to the experience of life, because much of life is spent in confusion. I mean, your entire childhood is just like confused moment after confused moment, right?
Yeah.
And then you're brought back into that confused, overwhelmed space in this moment of trauma, and your body's just like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. I'm so overwhelmed by this. I am utterly confused. And then there's this little teetering point where it turns from confusion into helplessness and hopelessness even, right? And if I can intervene before the hopelessness sets in, because there's going to be some helplessness there, and I can go, okay, hey, this thing has worked for me before, let's go there. That pathway towards recovery is much, I don't know if it's quicker, just more effective at holding me and helping me through this incident, right? So I would imagine that when you lost Jordan, that there was a lot of confusion, a lot of overwhelm. And it makes sense that you would default back to what you know, right?
Well, the first thing I thought of was connection.
Sure.
Like, he's going to a place where you feel connected with all these people.
Yeah, connection for sure. I mean, she went to the gym. That was her thing, was to go back to the gym.
It took me a couple of days to do that, but I knew that I needed that
Yes.
outlet for myself.
And it was the working out and sweating and maybe an hour where you didn't think about the whys and what ifs, but it's also, like you said, back to familiar. Like, she could control everything that happened in that gym.
Yep.
Where at home, and I love our family so much, and they were all there, but they were all sad, and quite honestly, it adds a little bit to that. I can't control what's going on. For me, I like to control things. I don't know if I'm a control freak, but I like to have
You're human, man. We all want control. Yeah.
And so being able to control what happens for a minute, like right in the gym, I control if I put weight on the bar or not. I control, if I'm going to work for a second or not. And at home, you just didn't have that control. It felt like it was so reactive. Everything was so reactive.
Yeah, I agree.
One thing I wanted to make another point. In episode 41, we talked about another tragedy that happened in our lives. I feel like we got a lot of tragedy, but we had our house burned down.
Oh, that's right.
So that happened in 2014. And for 3 or 4 months after, we just kept saying to each other, we have got to get back to where we were just before. We want to get back to normal, right? Which meant to us, like, to me at least, the 5 minutes before the fire started, that was our normal, and we wanted to get back there. But a huge lesson, and it's helped us then. It helped us with Jordan. It helped me with the crash and lots of other incidents. You never get to go back there. You have to create a new normal. And once we realized that, I don't know if you remember, but we were in a rental house, and we were just having a conversation about getting back to normal. And this aha light came on for us, and we both said, we have to find a new normal.
Yeah.
What's our new normal? Forget that normal. And once we did that, progression for me was easier.
Yeah. I totally remember that conversation. I think we were hyper focused on, he was going to rebuild our house the next day. We just wanted to get back to where we once were. But
literally, I got up at 5 a.m., went down there, and started working on it. I was going to rebuild it. I was homeless. Homeless with kids. Who wants to do that?
It's like, how much time do we spend trying to, quote, get back there to this place that cannot be visited?
Yep.
And in our minds, think about how much time we spend preoccupied with the idea of back there.
Yeah.
And whatever, fantastical idea we've created about that, what's really interesting about the mind too, that I find just fascinating, is that our minds are horrible at recollection. Horrible at it.
Yeah.
In fact, there's been studies on this. One of the most famous was they did this big study, this giant seminal event study after 9/11. And Malcolm Gladwell writes about this in one of his books. I think it's What the Dog Saw. Anyways, not important. They get thousands and thousands of people a couple of days after 9/11 to write down exactly where they were and what they remember happening and give as many details as possible about the event. And then they go a year later and they say, hey, do that again. Mm-hmm. And then 2 years later, hey, do that again. And after a year, half of the people or more were almost wholly inaccurate for what they were doing, where they were at. They didn't remember it at all. And 2 years later, it was like 80, 90% of people
That's
didn't
so
even
interesting.
remember, which is fascinating, right? Because, and this is an element of trauma resilience, stress resilience. It's really important. Is the mind's job is to create stories. It needs a beginning, middle, and an end to a thing, to an event, in order for that event to actually stick. We love the beginning, middle, end. And so what we end up doing is we remember the beginning really well because that's the moment, right? Mm-hmm. And immediately I say that, listeners, everybody in here goes, oh, I know the beginning of that trauma thing. Mm-hmm. And I know kind of sort of the end, because the end is like how it feels and maybe how I dealt with it. But that middle part, that's the most malleable kind of part that we can kind of work with. And 9 times out of 10, that middle part is the story that we tell ourselves about how we relate to it. Which is the belief around my relationship to the event.
Okay.
It's my fault.
Yep.
I'm powerless. I'm not good enough. I wasn't safe. I can't trust. And that story, the deeper it's embedded into the brain, in other words, the more intense and overwhelming the event, the more consistent that story shows up across the series of events, and the earlier it happens to us in life, those becomes the predominant narratives for how we see ourselves throughout our life.
Is that where you do the I should have or what if?
Yeah, it's more like, so we could even do this with would you guys want to try it?
Sure.
Okay, so let's think about, pick an event, any event. You get to pick one. Trauma stuff, something gnarly.
I'm thinking about Jordan.
I had a feeling.
That's what I was thinking,
okay.
Jordan.
Yeah.
So the earliest moment, you have this imagery, right? You know exactly what it is.
Of his passing.
Sure. And that's the most intense part of that memory. Yes?
And they're different for us.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys want to share what that is? You don't have to.
Well, I found him.
Right?
And so that.
And immediately that image brings up this physiological thing. And so what the brain does is goes, too intense. I gotta find a reason why this happened to deal with the confusion and the feelings that are so overwhelming and confusing. And so I come up with a story, a narrative, a belief system, which was what then, and maybe it's different now.
I guess I don't understand. Like,
What?
I understand the question. Yeah. That took you right back to it. Yeah.
I was stuck too because what I was thinking was Jeremy left the house to drive to where we saw Jordan's last location, and we'd been wondering why he hadn't come home. So I was waiting to hear from him that he had went and found Jordan. Mm-hmm. And so I was just thinking about the phone call that I received from Jeremy, and I was back to your comment about confusion. It was like, no, what are you talking about? That did not happen.
Possible.
He would not do that.
Yeah.
He would literally not do that. And I was almost having this like out of body experience.
We're just dissociated from
Absolutely.
it, right?
I was like, he would not do that. I don't know why. Like, what's happening? That was like,
what's the real story?
Yeah.
Let's get back to reality and figure out what's really going on.
Yeah. It's got to be something else.
I got to make sense of this somehow, some way. I got to figure this out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what the mind then does is it inserts some sort of belief about my relationship to the event, right? A lot of times it's somehow how I was culpable, how it was sort of my fault in some way. Is that relatable?
Yeah, that will eat you
Oh
alive.
my gosh. Every
Those-
disciplinary action, I say it like it's a business, but like
Yeah.
every time we had to correct behavior when he was younger, every little fight we ever had, I've relived every single one of those and wondered if I had done it different, if it would have changed the outcome of that day.
And you probably will wrestle with that for the rest of your life. I mean,
A lot.
Sure.
A lot.
Sure. But isn't that, I mean, the reality is that's normal. Like one of my favorite questions is, what does that say about you as a person? The fact that you want to reconcile that in that way, that you want to alleviate the pain, that you don't want to put all the blame or the culpability on one singular thing, that we're really comfortable putting it on ourselves and saying, well, hey, here's how I relate to this, and this is why it happened, and it's because of me, and I want to change it. I want to change the event, but the thing that we cannot change is the event. The thing that we actually can change is how we see ourselves. And that's the work, right? That's what we do as we go through this thing. And that's what you're trying to do in the fire department. That's what you're trying to do for yourself. And after these insanely overwhelming traumatic events, that's the only thing that we can control. You can't control the beginning. You can control the end, which is the feeling state, by changing that story and how you relate to the event itself. And it's not easy to do. But have you guys noticed that, like, as you've worked through it and talked about it and come to a better understanding of it, that the way you relate to that event has changed from like blame or culpability or whatever to something different now? These are tough
I don't
questions.
know if
They
there's
are
been
tough
enough
questions.
time. Honestly, I think there's times when I've changed, but definitely there's times when I'm right back there, reliving that moment and the whole incident. And I don't know. That's
So
a
let's-
tough question because I just don't know. I mean, it's been a year, and I think maybe some people will go, "Well, gosh, that's a long time," but it's not a long time at all. The feelings will always be real, but they're still so dang painful. And quite honestly, one of the things that's helped me is I had a friend. Well, I've had a couple, but I had a friend just, I don't know, 2 months ago,
Yeah,
lost
recent.
his son from suicide. In fact, just as I was walking up here, he texted me. They just did a memorial for him on Saturday. But helping him has helped me. Telling him what I went through afterwards, like Saturday, I sent him a big long text because it was the memorial, and he lives a long ways away, or I would have been there. But, like, hey, today's going to be hard, but, try to, you're going to be emotional, but those hang on to those memories and, let other people get to know your son. And then for whatever reason, saying that to him hits more impactful to me. I wish I would have thought about these things on the day for me. I don't,
Yeah. I was just thinking about my gratitude was not being expressed early on. I was not grateful for the situation that we were in. I was just totally perplexed about the situation. But now I find myself focusing more on, I'm sure it was tough on his pride that he was living with us for quite some time. But now I find myself feeling incredibly grateful that we got to spend that time with him, that he and Jeremy got to sit on the couch in the mornings and have coffee together. And I'm just really trying to center on gratitude. It's been helping a lot.
You know what's interesting? You talk about the event, and I do go back there a lot. What I go back to more, and I haven't shared this with her, but because I just noticed this recently, but I spoke at his service. And I go back to that, and there are so many things I didn't say that now I want to say. I want to do it again. And I try to give myself some latitude because, it was super emotional leading up to it. I didn't want to bore people. There were all these thoughts going into it. But, man, I relive talking about him at his service so much, and the things that I didn't say that now I wish I could tell every single person.
No time like the present, brother.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Yeah. What would you say?
Now I'm just how I gotta get.
You can do
Put
it. You
them
got
together.
this. You got this, man.
I
Got
just, just how much he cared about people. And I mentioned little things, but I just didn't go into the detail. And interestingly enough, Saturday night, Friday night, we went out to dinner. And this young lady came up to us and gave us a hug. And she said she'd wanted to do that since Jordan passed. And that in high school, she didn't have a lot of friends. But Jordan was one of those people that would always go out of his way to say hi and be nice to her. And that was Jordan. And I just wish I would have highlighted so much more of that. He wasn't super nice to himself at times, right? He went through some struggles, but he was such a good human being to other people. And the more we hear about these stories,
the amount of people that have surfaced saying Jordan was my best friend is incredible.
unbelievable
Like
how
he
many
had
people.
so many best friends. He's like just impacted people all over the place. And one thing I was thinking is he was someone that people could count on for help. I'm sure plenty of people have come forward and said, yeah, I called Jordan to help me move. And he was right there. And then when he got his pickup, he was helping people move stuff around all the time. He's just someone that could be counted on to be there for you.
It's amazing.
And
he's a good dad.
I wanted to share the other stories about all the little things in life that, in that emotional week, you don't think about, you're not grateful for because you're so hyper-focused on the loss. And that was a mindset shift for me as well. And we had that conversation, but stop focusing on the things I don't get to do with him and focus on all the 26 years and the things we did get to do with him. But
that's that flip.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the belief, right? There's all this, and the beliefs isn't just one little thing. It's all the stories we say. Like, I didn't get enough time. That's a story, right? It's my fault. That's a story. I could have done something more. That's a story. The truth is, you can make whatever story you want be the story, but which story is real? Which is the real story? And that's what happens over time is we really begin to understand the reality, the truth of this experience. It's all the things. There's dark, there's light, there's happy, there's sad. There's so much to this whole experience, and it's really challenging. And we have moments where things are just not clear. And in those moments of unclarity, every single human being on the planet makes decisions that they later regret. And some of those regrettable decisions are decisions that you can't change. And what's really difficult about suicide especially is when somebody dies by suicide, I really genuinely believe, because I've talked to tons of people and I know from my own experience, I genuinely believe that these people who want to die so badly, part of it is they want to end their own pain. But more, it seems that people genuinely believe that by taking themselves away, they relieve us of the pain of them.
that hurts me so bad.
It's so tragic. It breaks me down every time, but it's the truth.
But I think that's where you go into talking about like emotions are very powerful. Like we feel a lot and we react a lot off of our emotions, right? And so and our logic brain is shut off in those moments. And so I just feel like when people get really upset about people who die by suicide, like they're just not in their right mind. Like you can't be upset at that. You just can't. They're really genuinely hurting so bad in that moment. And that's the only thing that just makes it, I should say, the only thing that feels right? Because it doesn't make sense in the head, but it feels right that would be the right thing to do.
It feels like it strangely, right? It's almost backwards. And I've talked to literally thousands of people who are contemplating suicide by this point. And that's not a hyperbole, right? And there's this very real idea that my presence here is hurting the world. And that is always false. It is never, ever true. But what I recognize in myself is I felt the same way at one point in time. Twice in my life, I've attempted suicide. And both of those times, I felt that exact same way. Like, me being here is a burden.
Yep.
And I want to relieve the burden from the world. And so, you know, as I go around and do these talks and I meet all these people, like, man, I heard Jordan Peterson say this thing once. And I say it all the time now, and it's so powerful. It's never underestimate the size of the hole your absence would bring. And
true.
Every day you feel that hole.
Yeah.
This absence. And you
We
feel it
the
now.
hole, we see it in our other kids.
Yeah.
Their struggles with it. Interesting. I know there's a whole grieving process, and one of them's anger.
Definitely.
I've never been angry at him.
Wow.
And I won't let myself be angry at him. Because I don't understand what happened that night. I know we don't believe he was struggling with mental issues. I think it was an acute mental health issue that
Like
night.
a breakdown or something.
Yeah, because this was super, like, you guys were blindsided by this, correct?
Absolutely.
Like,
He had made an offer on a house the day before.
oh, that's right.
He
Yeah.
just got a nice raise and a promotion at work.
Mm-hmm.
When we cleaned out his room, this was the week before Easter, he had bought his 2 girls all the stuff for Easter, Easter baskets and eggs. And this was not a planned event. Like, there were none of his behaviors said he was thinking about. There's no note. There's none of that
Nothing.
stuff.
Wow.
Just
How do you reconcile this? I mean, that's probably even the wrong word. Like, how
How do you move forward?
do you move
Yeah.
on with this? What have you learned along the way that's helped, that maybe might help other people? Because unfortunately, the reality of the situation is literally half of all Americans are directly affected by suicide.
well,
And if
for
you're in the
me-
first responder community, that's another half again, 75 to 80%.
Sure. Yeah, I've been around suicide. One of my greatest mentors and a captain of mine committed suicide early in my career. With Jordan, for me, I mean, it's hard, but I have Kristen. And that sounds a little cliche, but it was like these baby steps, one step at a time. And we'll cry together and we'll talk about things. And what's interesting is it's not always we cry together. Like, I'll be having a rough day, a rough moment, but she always seems to be there.
I feel
And-
like we're always like, it's a teeter
Off.
totter.
Yeah, you guys hold
it
space for
literally-
each other.
That's so
Like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm ready. I got you. You do what you need to do.
Yeah.
I'll hold you and be here with you. And then
Yeah, I
let's
feel like
switch.
it's never at the same time.
Mhm.
Like we hiked up to the lake
Yep.
on the anniversary of his passing, and I got up to the tree first, and I set my little blanket down under the tree, and of course his dog just cuddled up right into me because she feels the emotion, she feels the weight of it all, and then I don't know, probably 45 minutes or an hour later, then Jeremy kind of sat down next to the tree with him, and the dog cuddled up to him, and it was like, okay, here's this teeter totter of, we're not always dealing with it at the same time. I mean,
Yeah,
we are
so-
dealing with it at the same time, but
Yeah.
With different frequencies.
Yes,
Holding
yes.
space
Different
for each other at
energies.
different
Right?
times.
I'm holding
Yeah.
space, or you're holding space, and I'm allowed to feel, and you're allowed to, I mean, isn't that a beautiful thing?
yeah.
But the other thing that I would say that I've kind of become passionate about is I had a lot of people say, I would have reached out, but I didn't know what to say. Or like on the 1-year anniversary, I had a couple people say, I was thinking about you, but I just didn't know what to say. And I'm going to be pretty adamant here.
Do it.
Send the fucking text.
Do
Yes.
it. Yes.
Make
Yes.
the call.
Yes.
It doesn't matter
Nope.
what you say
Mhm.
or how you say it. And I had, through the whole process, we both did, but like, it just, you would get a text at the perfect time, right? I know that nobody knew, but right when you needed it, it would come.
Mhm.
And if you're somebody out there and you're like, I feel bad, but I don't know what to say, it doesn't matter what you say.
Yep.
You can just say that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say, but I'm here for you,
Yep.
right? Just send the fucking text.
Yeah.
Do it. Yeah.
Damn.
Like if your gut is telling you to do it, you follow through with that
It
intuition.
doesn't have to be a phone call.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a personal visit. I say the text, but do something.
Mhm.
Let somebody know you care, because that helps you take one more step forward.
Connection.
Well, and I'll piggyback. I might even amp it up a little.
Oh, here we go. Watch out.
Quit being a bitch. You're afraid. You're scared. I get it, right? And that's a little harsh, the whole bitch thing. But
very harsh.
No, you're right. Though.
It's scary. It is scary.
I'm sorry.
What do we
I'm
say?
sorry.
No.
But hold
Yeah.
on. I'm sorry that your text message is uncomfortable. Send the fucking text.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you could not have said that better.
Yeah.
Because there's no such thing as wrong words unless you're being a jerk, right? Like, oh, too bad. Like, nobody's going to say that. All you got to say is, I'm thinking about you.
I love you.
Had no idea what to say. Love you.
Literally.
You
Like-
don't even need to reply. That's what I always say on mine. You don't even need to reply. Just know that I'm thinking
But-
about you.
I think this is bigger than just like this a little one-off incident. This is a cultural
It
issue
is.
for
It
us
is,
as
yeah.
Westerners,
Yeah.
right?
Especially Westerners. Yeah.
And what we have a really hard time with is, and we're gonna use the V word, vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
This is it's a very vulnerable thing to reach out to somebody and say, hey, I know you're having a hard time, whatever, text message,
Yep.
phone call, whatever. And I get that that's difficult and it's scary for people, but really, as much as we have a vulnerability issue, we have an epidemic of couragelessness.
Yeah. Well, comfortableness. No, people
Yeah.
want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
They're like, I will do anything to stay inside my shell and stay comfortable. But that's not how we grow as human beings. We have to put ourselves in uncomfortable situations and be scared and do it anyway. That's what we say all the time at home because that's where you're going to grow. And so, and that person's going to grow. And then you guys are going to feel the connection and the love that people are thinking about you because we all need that. Everyone needs to feel loved and connected, especially through something hard and difficult.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, and you're amazing at this. You do this as good or better than anybody I've ever met. Obviously, I know you better than anybody I know. But the truth is, like, your ability to be vulnerable and courageous. I mean, people tell you, Brindy, all the time that that's what they appreciate most about you is how caring you are.
and it's still scary today.
It's always
You
scary.
know what's? I have
yeah.
a really good example of how people caring can help, and Kristen actually brought it up at the viewing, at Jordan's viewing. In the very beginning, we were a mess, right, as expected. But as more people came through, we kind of not healed, but got comfortable, and before long, we were doing the
Consoling.
Consoling. Yeah.
consoling.
Yeah.
Like, and there was even a point, and I didn't really realize it till she brought it up, but I was like, well, why am I not crying anymore?
Well,
But
then you
they're all
started
crying.
Yeah, then you started to feel guilty. I'm like, why am I consoling them? Shouldn't I be upset? I mean, what's happening?
Oh my gosh,
this
the
roles
confusion
reversed.
that death brings.
But those people showing up brought all that much comfort to us. And that's the way I view it now.
Love it.
In that we were not emotional anymore, but we were helping people that were emotional.
I mean, that isn't that the thing? I mean, this is the we over me thing we
over
talk
me,
about all
yes.
the time.
Yep.
We have this concept we talk about on the podcast all the time, and this is kind of like, my. I feel like this is my contribution to the world. Is this theory that I've created about we over me, and I use it all the time. But this is it exactly. Where if I'm super focused on my own pain and my own issues and what I'm going through, it's really hard for me to deal, and I get stuck in this cyclical self pain focused state about me. But the moment that I can shift that from me to we, I can understand. And it's not you, right? It's different than you. It's we, it's us. And so now as people are coming through the line, we're all grieving together rather than I'm grieving alone. And isn't that like the main thing about humanness is that we are in this together?
Yeah,
Yeah, finding that
absolutely.
connection. Yeah. Well, I think like, you know how you said like you lost your gratitude and like trying to find gratitude through trauma is, it's like one of the hardest things I think. But the beauty of it is like now moving forward, like you guys are now helping other people, like sending that text to that friend. Like, could you imagine getting that the morning of Jordan's funeral? Which by the way was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
and
amazing.
the love and I think the community saw like Lehi fire like come around you guys. And I think it was a beautiful thing for us as a community because we also live in Lehi. So we were able to like see it from, we were stepped out and got to see it from afar. And it was just beautiful, the support that everyone just came together and offered and stuff.
You didn't get a seat because it was standing room only?
No, we were standing outside in the back. Luckily, they had the speakers.
No idea.
I know, it was insane. It was, a lot of people showed up.
Yeah, it's
beautiful.
It was so beautiful. It was. It gives me chills now, like just thinking about it. His funeral was absolutely beautiful.
And
beautiful.
Not to take away from Jordan by any means, but a lot of those people didn't know Jordan. They knew Kristen and I.
Yep. We didn't know Jordan.
And they were there to support, us. And it was amazing. I was overwhelmed by that.
Yeah.
Because you two are incredible. Like, you really are. Like, as a couple, as individuals. And I think that's why Matt and I are so gravitated towards you guys. And when you guys want to go out to dinner, we're like, yes, they want to hang out with us. Just true. You guys, you just offer such, like, your energy bleeds out love and safety and courage. And I just feel like when we're around you, we want to grow as human beings also. Like, you guys are very amazing people.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like,
so
we
nice.
adore you
Thank
guys
you.
a lot.
Yeah, I couldn't be more grateful for you both, especially you, Jeremy, man. Like, in the early days of here's why I get emotional, because I dedicate so much time to trying to help first responders. And the majority of that is met with leadership going, fuck you, dude, I don't want to talk to you. And that is, man, that gets rough. And so maybe it is your fault that I'm mad at these guys. Actually, now that I think about it, you set the precedent.
There it is.
Let's do some humor to deal with my emotions here. That's my MO. That's why I get along with you so well, right? But the truth of the matter is that very early on, I saw this man who just wanted to help. And I was like, oh, me too. You just want to do good stuff, man? What good stuff can we do together? And that's kind of how it all started. And I just think we find kindred spirits and people who are just like, I just want to do good for the world.
Yeah.
And along the way, I'm getting freaking uppercut and punched and freaking gut punched and unexpected this and that and the other. And what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Right? You can't just sit back and go like, oh, I guess this is hard. I quit. Like, no. You get up, you keep going, you keep helping people, you do the right thing, you try.
You fall again, you cry, you get back up.
You wipe the tears away, you wipe the blood off, rub some dirt on it, get back at it, and then you go to the doctors and you get taken care of because you got to take care of yourself. I mean, that's the mentality, and that's this energy that we try to bring to the world. And I think that radiates, and you can feel that, and it resonates with when you find people like that. And the risk of talking about super hard things that are super fresh, life is cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life is cruel. I know what
it's brutal. It's just not. It's
like kick you while you're down.
It's like. And this is the thing that kills me, man. Like, best people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll tell the story. So we just 2 weeks ago, it's the 1 year anniversary of Jordan passing. And about 3 weeks before that, the whole story is this. I found this passion over the last year to try to do a cancer testing initiative for firefighters, because we're 3 times more likely than your average citizen to get cancer because of what we do. And so we've been pushing really hard, me and 2 of my colleagues, to figure out how to bring cancer testing and raise funds to Utah. And we had an opportunity to go down and see a program in Arizona. And there's a side story to this too. Anyways, so I go down there and I got tested. And so I've recently been tested with 2 different types of cancer. I have a nodule, a tumor on my right kidney, so renal cancer, and then prostate cancer. So here, just when we're thinking we're going to get over one thing, now we have another thing. And so the Arizona thing, I'm going to pivot here a little bit. So there were 6 of us that went down there. And there were 8 of us that go down, but 6 of us were supposed to be cancer tested. About a week before we go, the list of who was getting tested and when came out, and I was not on it. I was not on the list. And so I was like, well, I'm just going down there to see the process anyways. But then, I don't know, a little voice or something said, no, make some phone calls, get yourself on there. And I did. And it's a good thing I did. Because the good news is it's not all doom and gloom. They're early, right? I'm asymptomatic.
Yeah.
Like I had 0 symptoms. They're small tumors, which is a whole part of what we're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because the problem with cancers in firefighters is we don't find them until you're symptomatic, and then they're late stage to end stage. Where when we can find them, like hopefully mine are, I have a biopsy this Thursday, but we can cure them, and we can have quality of life, and we can move on. But
How do you do it, man?
I know.
I'm sorry. I just
Seriously.
don't-
Like, you're so
You're
positive.
dude,
It's
crazy.
amazing.
What's this like?
Yeah, Kristen, what it like?
I'm not being positive. Right now.
Oh my
I'm
God.
pissed off.
Yeah.
Actually,
You should be. I'm pissed
Yeah.
too. Can we talk about
this? Is the balance thing again? Remember, he's gonna take care of you right now while you're pissed off, and and then it's gonna be reversed.
No,
Yeah, what's
I can
this like for
I
you?
can appreciate that he's being positive.
Well, how else are you supposed to be? I get
Right,
that.
Like,
Yeah.
you have no choice. Like, just toughen up and deal. But yeah, I'm pissed off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't been positive through the whole thing. It sucks, right?
yeah,
Like, I mean, why us?
yeah,
Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
How many times do we have to be tested?
Can we just
right?
catch a break?
yeah.
No, that's the whole shake your fist at the sky going. Like, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
Like, really, God? Like, this is life,
I
Like,
tell you, God won't throw anything more at you than you can handle, but I think he might have misjudged us or me.
well, and this is the argument for we don't want to get super
Yes.
weird, but that's my jam is for atheism, right? Where it's just like, really, God, childhood leukemia.
Right.
You're in control of this whole thing, and you decided to put that in here.
Mm-hmm.
Is that really you have that much control, or is it that there's just really not this
Someone up
dude
there
in
going,
the
"You get
sky
this,
who
you get
has
that, you get
control
this." Yeah.
and cursing people with this and blessing people with this? It's just circumstances, and
Our
we're just
mutual friend Maui.
yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't say Maui.
No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no.
yeah,
Now
yeah,
he's been on the
yeah,
podcast.
you're
He
good.
said it best,
Yeah.
right? God is either all powerful or all loving, but there is no way he's both, right?
Yeah.
Because if he were, and I'm starting to buy into this, I'll be honest, because if he were all loving and all powerful, you wouldn't have childhood leukemia, right?
Yeah.
So he's one or the other, but he can't be both.
Nope. Well, it's just like us as parents, right? We want the best for our kids, but we can't control everything that they go through.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just,
It's just hard, and it's hard to know how to respond. It's hard to know what to do, and it's hard not to get, resentful.
yeah.
I mean, and that's kind of this battle, Kristen, that I think if I can maybe assume a little bit, put myself in your shoes, I would imagine there's this tortured battle between gratitude and resentment,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
And being able to manage that, and moment to moment, it's different. And we're trying to change the story and how we see it and how we relate to it.
but allow
there's
yourself
moments-
to feel those.
But there's
feelings,
moments
yeah.
where it's just you're just freaking pissed
And
and
there's nothing
resentful
wrong with
and
that.
angry and upset but I think the saving grace is if I've been through a lot, I understand that those moments are just that, moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They come and go, ebb and flow.
Yeah.
And the more angry I am that I'm angry, the longer it sticks around.
Yeah.
And that's the trick. And that's what's tough, because I don't want to feel this way. And I hate that I feel this way. And I just wish it were fucking different.
Yeah.
But if I can accept that is,
Yeah.
And it can't change.
I'm just still overblown that you weren't going to get it tested. And then you were just like, well, I'm going down there. This is why I love it when people just listen to their gut. Do that more.
Yeah.
Intuition.
Your intuition is not failing you. And you did that. And you're just like, well, if I'm going to go down there, I might as well make this happen for myself. And you did.
Yep.
And that's awesome.
And here we are.
And here we are.
A huge lesson that I've learned, and it started clear back at the house fire. I'd forgotten about it, but we remembered again with Jordan. And I think there's a ton of power in it, but this is a journey that we're on.
Mm-hmm.
And when incidents like this happen, we don't get to change our journey. that we have to go through this. I don't want to go through this, but I can't go around it. Just like when Jordan passed for a while, like I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to see my kids suffer. I didn't want to see Kristen suffer. But it's a journey you have to go through. And when you accept that you have to do it, at least for me, it makes it easier. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to have my meltdowns. I'm going to be pissed off about this cancer thing at some point. But it's a journey that I have to do now. So I told her, this is the fireman in me, right? The incident commander comes out. We're just going to formulate a plan and we're going to execute the plan. And if we have to pivot in the plan, we're going to, but that's how we're going to get through this.
And we just need the doctor to get on board with that.
Yeah, I need the damn doctors. If they're watching, you're not on my timeline. Because if we were on my timeline, I'd have a hell of a lot more answers right now.
Is that not the most frustrating part, man?
Man.
Oh, man. Woo. If I go off, we could do a whole podcast on the medical industry and how freaking irritating that system is.
It's terrible.
And how we need to do freaking something about it.
Yeah.
But that'll be, I can imagine that's going to be some of the most frustrating parts of this is the,
waiting for
waiting
answers,
on
the helplessness,
waiting on appointments and waiting on test results and
yeah.
That's how I tag it. It's just a journey I got to go through now. So let's go through it.
Which is beautiful. I love that. Like accepting, it's almost like acceptance, right? I'm going to accept this, but doesn't mean I'm going to show up with a great attitude the whole time. Like I'm going to feel my feelings. I'm going to be angry at some point. And if we can accept that's also part of the journey, I think, like you said, like, I don't know if easier is the right word, but like definitely like I can take this on, I guess. I'm strong enough, right? Like I am strong enough. All right, let's do this.
Yeah, I think sometimes we try to hide from our journey.
Yeah.
But Jordan's a great example, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we had all our family there. Everybody's grieving. I remember a couple times thinking, I'm just going to go out in my wood shop or sit in my room and I'm not doing this today, right? But no, this is what I have to do. And so go out there, be vulnerable, be real with your people, and just move through this journey. You might not move fast, but at least you're moving.
That's courage.
I love that.
That's what it is. You just get a beautiful definition for courage. And this is the thing that's lacking. We're afraid, we're terrified, and we turn and we go the other way and we go back to that comfortable place.
Why do you think that is? Why are we lacking?
Why are we lacking in courage?
Why are we not as courage as we used to be?
Because we don't have to be. Because the modern way we live is there's so many amenities, there's so many options for comfort and familiarity that you don't have to do courage.
Yeah, that's
You could sit at home and watch Netflix all freaking day and eat ice cream and chips, and you could.
Oh, I would go
amazing.
insane. I was like,
for 24 hours, sure.
We're like, sign me up.
But those I mean, you see the results of that.
Yeah.
You can see Mother Nature's response to that, refusal to engage.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to teach you. She's going to create disease. She's going to create, discomfort to motivate you out of that state. But because we've created this modern, westernized version of everything I need is literally a freaking click away.
I know.
I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to do anything. It all's brought to me. Me. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
When we just have this conversation in the grocery store.
Yeah. He was like, there's more people shopping for other people than there are people shopping for themselves. Like, we're so lazy.
Yes.
We're so lazy.
Yeah. Like you see at Walmart, all the cart pushers.
That's where we work.
And there's so many of them. And you're like, holy cow.
Blows my mind.
Yes. It is.
Yeah, and if you go down that rabbit hole, you get to this place where you begin to realize that when it becomes about the capitalistic monetization of whatever it is that we're doing, and stuff and gain, that's the ultra me thing. Mm-hmm. Self-aggrandizement. Mm-hmm. I want to be a billionaire. I need a bigger yacht than the other billionaire dude. I got to freaking shoot the bigger rocket into the sky than this guy. Like that. We worship this. Mm-hmm. This is a god. Go read the freaking Bible. Moses comes down with the freaking 10 Commandments. What are they doing? Bowing down to the golden calf. What does he do? Breaks the freaking tablets. Gets pissed off. What happens? 10 Commandments. Go. In comes the freaking law of Moses, and they get a gigantic list of rules because of this worship, this idolatry that's just innate within us. And so we have to figure out how to manage that tendency, this predisposition towards stuff, because it feels like that's what's going to bring me the most,
the happiness.
Happiness.
Have you read the book?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Crazy. Wild. But it doesn't. It leaves you empty. It leaves you constantly wanting more. And that emptiness, it's just bottomless pit, man.
I've talked about her a lot today. You can tell I idolize this girl, but recently she started doing something that I've seen bring her more happiness than a lot of things recently. And she's making sourdough breads.
Yes, you are.
Like, you cannot believe it.
Yeah,
that's
they're
where
gorgeous.
most of them are going.
I'm like, when are you going to sell some? I'll buy some from you.
I don't want
sell
to.
them.
I've been getting so much joy about
Just
just
making
giving
them.
it, just give it away, and just
I love it.
love people through service.
Yep.
I don't know. It's just giving me, and I also feel like, and I said it's my therapy, but it's like doing something with my hands also kind of just grounds me a bit.
Creating something. You're creating something.
Yep.
But the thing that's brought her the most happiness has nothing to do with gaining any monetary value or
Never does.
or power or any of that stuff, right? And I don't know if you know about making sourdough, but it's a labor of love.
Oh,
It's
yes,
not
it is. You
it's
don't
not
make it in
whip
a
some stuff
day.
together,
Yeah,
throw it
this
in the
is not a
oven.
one-day thing. No. Yeah, this is
we
multiple
stretch
days.
and pull
Yes.
and
Let it
stretch
sit
and pull.
for hours.
Stretch and I call
Stretch and pull. Stretch and pull.
I call it stretch and pull. Whatever. You go where you want with that. But it's it's a 2-day process to make 3 or 4 loaves of sourdough, and then she gives it away.
Hard work and service, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It feels
And I've learned.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
That's the whole freaking point.
It's like the antidote, right? Like,
is.
what's the antidote to feel better? Hard work and service. Like, it changes it, and it makes it about the we, and it's not just about the me. Yep. Yeah.
And sourdough's delicious.
I'll bring
And
you some.
sourdough is delicious.
I'll
Yeah.
bring you some.
She's got 4 loaves working right now. I don't know where they're at in the process. They're stretch and pull. And they got some stuff in them. And
Sorry, I can't come to your podcast. I have to stretch it. No, that's not it.
Well, I'm obsessed with Trader Joe's cookie butter. If you haven't tried Trader Joe's cookie butter, maybe I shouldn't say this because it keeps every time I go to Trader Joe's, it's out.
It's
I don't know.
out.
I've
So I
talked
don't
about
know
it
if
too
you
much.
want to keep
I don't know
telling
if you've
people.
had this. It's Biscoff cookies made into like a spread. It's unbelievable.
Oh, wow.
And so I just put that on some bread, a little toast, a little sourdough.
Perfect.
Man, that's
Yeah.
where it's at. And it's those little simple pleasures. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
And you give somebody this little simple pleasure, and you can enjoy their labor of love, and that, like, isn't that the whole point? I mean, like, think about the places where your children are happiest. Where are your children happiest? Right? Sure, you can get them an ice cream. They're happy for like 30 seconds, right? But you put them in nature.
Yeah.
You put them around a campfire. You let them go roll around in the dirt. You let them go play outdoors with other people, creating this like push-pull dynamic and figuring stuff out. And parents are out of the way, and kids can go be. That's when they're the happiest. We've robbed ourselves of that.
Yeah.
We're living vicariously through these experiences. People are doing our shopping at Walmart. We're watching Netflix all day. Like,
Yeah.
what happened to like living?
Yeah.
Because we're scared. Because it hurts.
Yeah.
Because it does hurt. Because
Because shit happens.
it goes down and it's hard.
Yep. Yep.
Shit happens.
Send the fucking text. That's so good.
But it's true.
love
Do
it. I
it. Be
love it.
scared
That's gotta
and do
be
it
the name of the
anyways.
episode.
Yes.
Episode name. Send the fucking text.
Yes.
I love it.
Well, I just feel like that's
Fantastic.
like one of the biggest things we learned through Bethany and Kevin. Like,
Oh, yeah.
so my mom lost a child when she, my sister, she lost her, but I wasn't born yet. And then my friend Bethany and Kevin lost their child. And I felt like I learned a lot from them as a person who didn't go through that. And that was one of the biggest things for my mom and for Bethany that I found a connection on was people not saying something almost hurts even more.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you're going through something so unimaginable, and you it's almost like you're drowning and you're just like wanting someone to reach out to you and like grab your hand and pull you up.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I learned that. And I was like, never again am I not going to not send the text.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me sometimes, especially when I feel like, okay, I'm thinking about you, and I send it again like the next day. Like, I'm thinking about you, especially, just like recently we had a really close friend of ours. She lost her son. And I just sometimes feel bad that I'm texting her too much. And I always put, you don't need to reply. But at the same time, Bethany, like I talk to her and she reassures me, don't not send it.
Yeah.
Don't not send it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, sending. So yes, send the text.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It does hurt because we have some friends that I would have thought would have been right there,
Yes.
but we never heard anything
Nope.
from. They almost alienated us.
My
Do you
mo-
feel
yep.
like that?
I think maybe there's a little bit of a stigma with suicide too, like it's contagious. And so I think people are also
they get
scared to be a
scared.
little bit too close to you. Like
Yeah.
it's contagious. But I was never looking for somebody. I had a lot of answers. I still have or a lot of questions, excuse me.
Yeah.
And I still do, but I wasn't ever looking for anyone to like text me the answers to these questions.
No.
I just wanted
Just sit with
love,
you.
love, a sympathy,
Yes.
something. Just
Yeah.
come over and
Yes.
just be next to me. I mean, I was actually going to say when we were talking about the firefighters, they came and just sat around the kitchen table and they didn't want to eat any of the food that was prepared for us,
They
but
brought
they
us
just
so
wanted
damn
to
much
be
food.
there with us and just sit with us in our pain and our grief and just be.
Yep.
That's totally fine to just come and just
Be. Yep.
but
Yeah.
like it is almost worse when someone tries to say the right thing because there's
No.
nothing that you can
Yep.
say to make it better. Just show me that you're standing with me.
I just don't want to
Sit in the
feel
dark with
so
me.
alone for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Just be with me.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. Because the same thing, like my mom's best friend after the accident, they live across the street from each other. Nothing.
Oh man.
Nothing. Because I get it. Like on my end, like it's scary. It is. It's scary. But I've learned that it's better to say something than nothing. So, yeah.
Well, we appreciate you guys, your friendship, your energy. Our hearts go out to you. And as things progress along, I mean, keep us posted if we needed help with, I don't know what you're going to need, but we are always down to help you guys forever and always. We love you.
Appreciate it.
We
We got
appreciate
this.
you.
Yeah.
We'll keep you posted.
Yes, definitely.
Thanks for what you do.
Yeah,
I
seriously.
appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you.
You're getting the word out on mental health and taking care of yourselves. And I have to tell you before you close up,
Please.
you mentioned breath work when
Yeah.
I think we were at dinner
Yeah.
that you were working on your breath work, and I found a connection to do a little breath work session.
Yes.
And we're definitely going to keep doing that because that was incredible.
It's incredible, huh?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, keep doing it.
I actually asked her how often is too often to practice this.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing that again because
Good.
that's very effective.
It is. You
wild.
get a lot of you grow a lot.
Mhm.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's so awesome. I'm so
thank
glad.
you
Yes.
for the suggestion.
Yes, that's
Wonderful.
awesome.
Yeah, we're trying to get her breathwork teacher onto the podcast.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
trying to do a whole episode on
get
breathwork,
her
and our good
on.
buddy does breathwork. I can't believe how cool that stuff is.
Yeah.
Right? Like you wouldn't notice. You wouldn't know. Like you can just breathe.
Yep.
And an hour later, after just some breathing, like,
Yep.
Yeah.
your
Breath-
whole chemistry.
Now put breath work and cold plunge. Your cold
I was
plunge
just going to
together.
say that. We should
Mhm.
have done that when we went to the
Yes.
river. Done a little
We should
breath
go.
work.
Let's go back to the river
Okay.
and
They
do
did
a little breath
sound
work.
bath after
Done.
our breath work.
You did?
Yeah.
That's
Where'd you guys do it at?
awesome.
Breath work.
Do you remember?
A friend of ours, her family has a little warehouse that they
cool.
rent, and she just has a little room set up. It was really beautiful. She had some twinkle lights on the ceiling, and the vibe was incredible.
Yep.
But the sound bath was really cool.
Yep.
That's wild. Too,
So
man.
we did breath work right into a breath hold, which was so wild.
Yes, the
Like
hold.
she told us,
yes.
"Oh, I've had people hold 3.5, 4 minutes," and I was like, "No way, someone can do that." Oh, I was close.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was, like, into
Isn't that
it, yeah.
crazy?
And then the sound bath, and then like the kind of like share your experience with everybody else in the room. That was really cool. But yeah, I want to do it a lot more.
Good.
That's all this-
Awesome. Yeah.
Well, and I'm obsessed with ancient stuff. Like
Yeah, you are.
if it's been around for
Sure.
the thing I say to people, like if it's been around for thousands of years, you need to pay attention.
Yeah, like do it. Yeah.
And breathwork's been around forever, dude.
Ever.
They have records of this going back 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years, as early as we can know
Mhm.
about these people doing these breathwork ceremonies. And we're finally just like, oh, yeah, it's cool. 2024.
Yeah.
Breathwork is the coolest thing ever, man.
Yeah.
Can you guys believe we discovered this?
So on trend.
Yep. Yep. Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. We really appreciate it and getting vulnerable with us today. Like,
Yeah.
it means a
for
lot.
having us.
Yep. Thanks.
It's about every 40 episodes we come back.
Let's go.
Yes.
Let's go. Let's make it happen.
Done.
Awesome.
Love it.
Thanks, guys.
Finding Strength podcast is sponsored by Avantacool.
Avantacool.
Avantacool. It's a fun word to
It is
say.
a fun word to say. What is Avantacool, Matt?
Avantacool sells cold plunges. Avantacool sells infrared saunas. Check out Avantacool at avantacool.com. If you use the code STRENGTH24, you will get a discount of 25% off any Avantacool products. How amazing is that?
That's a good discount. It
It
really
is.
is.
Do you like our cold plunge?
I love it.
It's nice, huh?
It is really nice.
great.
Stays clean.
Stays
it's
clean.
perfect. Whatever temperature I want it to be at, I can set that, and it's great.
We love it.
Go check 'em out.
Every penny. Check them out. Avantacool.com.